Hello there, I'm Stuart Goldsmith, and in this clip from my Comedian's Comedian podcast, I'm talking to Roy Haylock, aka Bianca Del Rio, one of the funniest drag queens around, the clown in a gown. We're going to be talking about the difference between stand-up comedy and drag performance, and also the difference between Bianca and Roy. I saw you live hosting.
Oh, God.
It was in San Francisco. It was the night me and my wife got engaged.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's a long time ago now, but thank you. We were in San Francisco, and it was supposed to be Michelle Visage hosting some sort of Battle of the Seasons.
Oh, yes. And
you were the host. And you were so good. We were fans to begin with. That's why we went. But you were unreal.
Oh, well, you are too kind. You know, it's funny is that a majority of the gigs that I have gotten in my life has been when someone passed on it, couldn't show up, or died. So that's always the trick for me. I'm always appreciative of any of that. But yeah, it's been 8 whole years since Drag Race, which is crazy to think about when it first aired in America. So my season was 2014. So it's just been insane what's happened in the past 8 years. It's crazy.
I definitely want to focus on that to kind of establish who you are for a UK audience who may be less familiar with you.
Okay.
That was your kind of break into the mainstream. Is that fair? I know that you had a substantial life before Drag Race.
Listen, no one gave a shit before. So the advantage was, I think like most performers, you know, you were doing every shitty gig, every horrible place, a job was a job prior to Drag Race. And here was this opportunity to basically a platform that was just television. And you don't realize how powerful television is until you're on it, you know? And for me, we had filmed it in 2013. It aired in 2014. And at the time I was 37. I turned 38 while we were filming. And I literally thought, you know, hey, at this point I've done, I think 17 years of drag. I was like, I'm good. You know, I could take it or leave it at this point. It was a long haul doing gigs in the middle of the week at 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. and having an audience that didn't give a shit about you. So I thought, let me go on this TV show because I had some other friends of mine that had been on the show and who were not interesting, talented, or funny, and they had success. So I thought, if this untalented bitch could do it, why don't I try it? And I don't mean like, oh, I called them up and wanted to be on it. I still had to audition like everybody else. But I thought, you know, if this was the end, this is a great run. I've enjoyed it and I can move on. And it did quite the opposite. It just opened the doors. And here it was, every opportunity that came my way, whether it be television or stage or doing this gig or doing that gig, I said yes to it because it was a chance to just get back out there. I was old enough to know better and know that this doesn't last forever. And you just need to run with it. And you need to find a way to get to the audience. Because we live in a digital age now where, you know, obviously if you're on television every day, you probably have more traffic. But the game was for me to go out and do a show in every city or any venue that would want me. So that really kind of opened the doors for me, is finding those people.
And I saw Rolodex of Hate, and I remember you saying that you, when you did Drag Race, you didn't have social media.
No,
so you were on the show, and then you suddenly had to go, oh Christ, I've got to get the sails up and catch the wind, right?
Yeah, completely. And that was, I think that's where the years before Drag Race paid off. You know, you know how it is. You're doing and you're working and you're thinking it's leading to nowhere. 2 things, what had happened during that time was basically a skill set is one thing. Also just accepting whatever's in front of you, which is part of your skill set, to be honest. But in the end, but in the end, just realizing, this is a golden ticket. I need to run with it. And it doesn't last forever. So with that, it was just go out and run and do it, you know? So that basically became the drive to do it, you know? And what's the good of sitting at home and saying, oh, I've done this, how lovely. No, keep going, improving yourself and getting out to that audience.
Yes, and you're in the middle of a tour at the moment, which is absolutely colossal. So since Drag Race, you have, again, like you quickly found your feet with social media.
Yes.
And you employed your, like, as you say, I mean, we're similar ages. When that moment comes along, I've been doing comedy 17 years, and I know that you get little glimmers. You're like, oh, that was one, and that's another there, and they don't last. So to seize hold of it, you've clearly torn into it with tremendous energy.
Well, and that's where the social media comes in. I just realized I didn't answer your first question. But yes, I had just a Facebook scenario, and I was doing, Facebook, and I might have had Facebook as myself, as Roy, and then I had one as Bianca, because that was the thing to do then. And then Facebook started banning all of us because our names weren't real.
Because the names, I remember that happening,
Crazy shit. So then, with it, they suggested while I was on the show for you to get an Instagram together, for you to put this out, and I'm like, okay, not knowing what to expect. Honestly, even in America, I just assumed, okay, my friends in New York would watch, my friends in New Orleans would watch, some people in California, not knowing the global impact, because for us at that time, this was the only incarnation of Drag Race that was happening, was the American version. So everybody else was watching a pirated, downloading some freaky other version. So I didn't even think about the UK or thinking about anything beyond America. Australia, what? Impossible. Asia, forget it. And with it, it opened the doors. So with that, I started with my first tour, which is Rolodex of Hate. And currently I'm on my 5th solo tour. And with each year, it's gotten bigger, more cities and more opportunities. I mean, right now I'm on my 102nd performance of this show that started last August. We did America, all over America, which was scary, because I just didn't expect to have an audience after the pandemic. You know, you're sitting at home for what, year and a half, 2 years, and you're thinking, this is it. You know, no one's going to come see me. No one gives a shit anymore. People are dying. This is serious. But then they came out in droves. So we did America. We did Canada. We did South America. We did the UK. We did Europe. I'm about to go to Amsterdam. And then I head to Asia and Australia and South Africa. So yes, I'm the person to go, what the fuck? And how did this happen? That's the power of social media there, you know, and also, because I'm not on any television show or anything currently. It's literally just been touring for the past 8 years.
And that's the thing. One of the cards I think you've played very well is you know exactly what you're best at, and you do that. It's like that kind of business thing of like delegate everything you're not incredible at.
Yes.
You do stand up. So talk to me about how. I mean, I recognize it's not stand up, but it is stand up.
But it is, no, totally. And one of the reasons why I eliminate all the, as I say, fuckery, the only thing that's production is me and drag. I mean, I'm on stage with a table, a curtain, maybe, a light if it turns on. You know, it's literally that. And I try to keep it as minimal as possible because, you know, when you're in a different place every night and you're dealing with these union people that are working, or you're coming in, you got 3 hours and they don't give a shit. If you have a cue, they don't give a fuck. Like, don't ask, don't plan, don't prepare for it. So strictly, it is me with a microphone in drag. And the only reason why I'm in drag is because I can control that myself. You know, I dress myself, I do my hair myself, I get ready myself. So that's the only thing I can control. So we try to keep it as minimal as possible because it's easiest. And frankly, it costs less. And if anything goes wrong, you don't lose your shit over it. It's like, this is it. This is what it's about.
You rely on yourself. That's very like straight down the line stand up. It's just you, and you solve the problems yourself, and anything that comes up is the problems are the material, right? That's, you know,
correct.
You're the clown in a gown. That's a clowning staple.
That's it.
Talk to me about, like, had you ever done stand up before you started being funny in drag? Had you ever gone to a stand up club as Roy?
No, never. And from my perspective, I got into drag basically by doing theater. And it was a role that they said, can you play this role? And I happened to be there at the time because I was doing wigs and makeup and costumes for a production. Mm-hmm. And the show had several drag queens in it. So they said, would you be interested in playing this small part? And the way it happened was it was a part to cover a costume change. So I literally was supposed to be on stage about 3 minutes to cover, and they had some scripted options. And then I just enjoyed it a little too much. So 3 minutes went to 5 minutes, went to 7 minutes, went to 8 minutes. And now I'm venturing into 12 and 15 minutes. And that was kind of where it snowballed. Cut to me then working at the local gay bar, because that's really the only place you could find drag queens, was a gay bar, maybe a cabaret space and a small theater. Because I started in 1996 when the gay people didn't even like us. So this was way back when.
Is that right? Just on that for a second, is that right?
Yes! Gay men were horrible to drag queens. Back in the day, they didn't care about you out of drag. They didn't want to hear your story. They wouldn't date you. There were certain bars I couldn't even go in if I was in drag. So yeah.
I had no idea that was an element of the
shady. Yeah. So now I find it quite amusing that they're, running out of a bar, hanging off of a balcony, anything to get a selfie with me. And I'm like, I haven't forgotten you fuckers. But in the game of it, at that time, it was just a completely different world. When I went into the gay bars, nobody wanted to talk on the microphone. They would be a host. They would be 6 or 7 different drag queens that would do different things, most lip sync, dance, or whatever. Some would sing live, but nobody wanted to talk and be the glue to keep the show moving. So cut to me doing a show on a Wednesday night at midnight Great timing.
Mm-hmm.
Midnight, 12 o'clock to 1 a.m., depending on how early they got ready, in New Orleans, Louisiana. I was the bitch to talk. And what do? You're killing time for people to do costume changes. You're killing the time to schmoozing with the people in the audience. And it got really interesting when I would host drag bingo in the afternoon at 5 o'clock to 8 p.m. For whoever was in the bar. Now, you can imagine if you are an alcoholic and you want to drink at 5 p.m., the last thing you want to hear is a fucking drag queen calling out bingo. But this is where the skill set came in. When you're forced to perform for people that don't want to see you, hear you, or be entertained by you, you definitely learn how to get through
Yes,
it.
I think
Because,
a lot of comedians listening to this, there will be a lot of hard relating to this because
yes,
those are the kind of the circumstances. That's the crucible within which you kind of go, I have to survive somehow.
yep,
Oh Christ,
yep,
what can I do? And at least, I mean, particularly if you've got some sort of loose structure like we're playing bingo, then
yes.
you've got a thing that can happen. You've got a reason to be there, and you can improvise around it. So were you writing bits at that time? You're like, okay, I've got 3 hours of bingo. Were you writing anything, or
No.
was it all free fall?
It was all free fall. It was nothing written. I didn't even consider myself, quote unquote, a comedian until probably a good 15, 20 years later. It was one of these things where it was just what you had to do. You were just dealing with the audience. I knew how much money I was getting paid at the end of the week. I thought this is better than working in a cubicle. I wasn't selling insurance. I didn't have to be at a bank. I had to be in drag by 5 o'clock. And let me tell you, 8:01, I had my money in hand and was out that door. So that was just the job, and that's what came with it. Some nights great, some nights horrible. But
Okay.
what I started to look at from it was just realizing then if it goes great, amazing. And you know how it is. You tell a joke that works or a scenario that works, you will never forget it. You're like, I've got it here. If you tell a joke that's bad, you go, never going to do this again. But at least I have a great story now to accompany it when everything went to shit.
This is
So
very efficient.
yes, and then you go, one night I told this joke, and then you have the story that follows after. So it just became my world. You were in, you turned it on, you did it, you were out, without the pressure, I should say, of being a comedian with a set amount of time or a set amount of material. And I have much respect for people that are scripted. I have much respect for someone who is scripted and has to tell it every night and makes it fresh and new. I'm fascinated by people who can write pen to paper and say, this is going to work, this is not going to work. I don't work anything like that. So I have much respect for it, but I never considered myself good enough to be on that level.
For tour dates, news, updates, whatever they are, and the latest episodes of the Comedian's Comedian podcast, go to stuartgoldsmith.com.